You need out your notes from yesterday. The lesson 1, graphically represent data. I'm going to pick up where we left off in your notes, so get those out, pause the video if you need to. The next way to represent data is called a histogram. The following histogram shows the ages of the workers at Charlie's Food Factory from exercise number 1 that we did yesterday, but in a different format. Take a look at the histogram and see if you can figure out how many workers have ages between 19 and 21 years. If you had said 11, you are correct. If you look at 19 to 21, that's this bar in the second range here. From 19 to 21, there were 11 workers that age. Now the next part asks, what is the disadvantage of a histogram compared to a box plot? Take a look at our histogram. Can you tell me specifically how many of those 11 workers were 19 years old? How about 20 years old? The thing about a histogram is that it gives you the ranges of workers' ages, or any histogram gives you a range of numbers. So within each interval or each range, for example, this 19 to 21 range here, you can't tell me specifically how many of those 11 workers were 19. It could be all 11, it could be 5, it was actually 3 in this case. So that's the disadvantage of the histogram. Within the histogram, you don't know what any individual data value is. So copy that into your notes. Part C asks, does the histogram have any advantages over the dot plot? It does, and that is that it's easier to read the total amount that we have in each of those ranges. You can very quickly look at the graph and tell me, oh, range 22 to 24 is 2. Very fast there, unlike with a dot plot where you have to count. So I want you to write that it's easier or faster to read the total amount in each range. Before you turn the page, under there, I want you to write down a couple of key features that we need to have when we're making our own histogram. So when you make your own histogram, what's one thing that you notice about the histogram that's given to you? Hopefully you said one of these 3 things. The first thing that's important is that your histogram has a title and your axes are labeled. Title and labeled axes. The next thing that's really important is that your bars are touching. And I'm going to talk about that more in a second. The last thing is that your scale of your axes needs to be equal or even. So if you go up by 3s, each range needs to be going by 3s. Okay, so let's talk about that bars touching here for a second. If you look at the histogram that was given to you, the bars are all touching. There's no space in between those bars. If you draw me a graph and your bars are not touching, that is called a bar graph, not a histogram, and you will lose points if you're told to draw a histogram. So you need to make sure that your bars are touching each other.